Hello, boils and ghouls, and welcome to the very first episode of the Erie Edwards Show. Tonight, we have an interview with Christopher Redman, star of The Start of My Obsession for Horror, and a little thing you might have heard of, Are You Afraid of the Dark, with the Tale of the Crimson Clown, arguably the scariest episode in the entire series. We also touch on his experience on Goosebumps, and trust me, I'm sure he was also on a lot of your favorite shows. We will also visit some filming locations of the show. So, stay tuned if you dare. So first, I want to begin with, to anyone watching this, it's a very big honor to meet you. Uh, it's your fault why I'm obsessed with horror. I remember watching Nickelodeon when I was younger, and I was watching like Ren and Stimpy or something like that. And I remember all of a sudden the Are You Afraid of the Dark theme song hit, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I was like young. I was young, like maybe 7. And then it was your episode, The Crimson Clown. And I remember being terrified, but then also being like, I love this feeling. And then every week I was like, oh, I gotta see it, I gotta see it. So indirectly, it's all of my obsession.
That's so fun. I mean, I used to love to watch the show as well, and as soon as you said that, I can hear the music, right? That those first like bars coming in, and there's the swing and the whole visual at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like sense memory ingrained in me.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, at that time, that was like really, really exciting for me to be a part of and do because I was a big fan of the show too.
What can you tell me about how the casting went for both episodes? And was it easier to get the second episode because you were in the other one, or?
Yeah, there were. There were back this was in I was living in Toronto. They cast it out of Toronto and shot it in and around Montreal. And back then there were only this is like 94, 95, and there weren't that many young actors in working in Canadian television, and um a lot of them were like the regular campfire kids, and we were all jealous of them because they got to do it every single week.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But we all knew each other, which is also uh, that small pool of actors is also the reason that I was in too. But the first one I got, I just remember getting along with the director Ron Oliver really, really well, and he's this really funny, quirky guy who just was really great with kids. And so after the Crimson Clown, um, where I had just had a great time and got along with the crew so well. Um, I felt like it made it easy for Ron, the director, and I was just game to do whatever and
Yeah.
play with all the practical effects and everything that he needed, so that when the uh, next episode came around, it was also with Ron Oliver. He knew me, and he was like, "Yeah, we've got this real, real weird one about a computer virus and this thing called the internet." And yeah, and so then I did an episode of Goosebumps also with him afterwards too.
Yeah.
There was a time.
So I live in Montreal currently, and
Oh, amazing.
yeah, so me being from here and about both your episodes being filmed here and a lot of episodes being filmed in Montreal, I was just curious about your experience back then, and if you've been back since, how is it now? Do you like Montreal? Like, how was your experience as a kid there?
Yeah, love Montreal. When I was younger, it was extra exciting because I think it was my first time. I was, my dad came with me because he had to. Um, but we were, staying in a hotel. I think I had my own room. That was very exciting. And then that was really my first experience of all the great food that they have in Montreal. And I was like, whoa, this it just hits different everywhere here. And
Yeah.
then going back, I felt I think we were staying at a hotel. I don't know if it's still there, called Manoir Lemoine.
Okay. It's,
Manoir Lemoine.
it doesn't ring a bell, but it's possible maybe near the old Montreal area or something as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. And but I loved walking around. Both the Crimson Clown was in winter, and it was bitterly, bitterly cold. But it just felt like a different world from outside of Toronto where I was, and I loved it. And I've been back several times since. We went back last summer, drove through. I've never lived there, but I could see myself moving there. I love the people, I love the food, I love the parks. And we were there, yeah, summer, late spring when everybody is just like getting through the winter and it's 10 degrees Celsius, but the shorts are coming out and patios are open. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the
Um,
best. It's one of my favorite cities in the whole world.
yeah, that's nice to hear. The Crimson Clown is arguably the scariest episode in the whole series. I was just curious what it was like behind the scenes. Did they keep it light on set? Was it creepy also filming it like with the animatronic clown doll? Was it creepy as a kid, or like did they make sure to say,
It,
"Hey, look, it's a doll" type?
yeah, they do, and we were sort of a part of. I have a picture I'll send you. All right, maybe I can pull it up right here of the. So this is me with the head
Oh, wow.
before it explodes. And they had this massive air
Very
compressor, and they were
cool.
blowing up this balloon for the head to explode. We had to run that many, many times to get it to work. So they had this wall of like 20 different deflated heads with glitter and stuff inside it hanging. And I thought that was the most disturbing thing. But what was fun and what really helped and was, when you're a kid too, your imagination is so vivid that they were never relying on any special effects outside of what you could do practically. It was like Star Wars. So all the lighting, all the angles, the animatronics, the effects like that were all done in real time. And so it was really exciting. It did lend to like this whole atmosphere that was really creepy.
Yeah.
And then as you're a kid, you're just so excited to watch it afterwards and go like, did we pull it off? How freaky does it look? And you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good.
I remember being a kid and the TV scene used to scare me so much, like when his arm comes out of the TV. I was just curious if you remember that scene and how, like, from your POV, was it?
That was the freakiest one. Yeah. And they had because I didn't really see it all come together. I saw how in parts they were going to do it with this big yeah, hand contraption that they made. But then when we got in there and they lowered the lights and they did it all, I mean, it's terrifying. And so many people have said like that thing was like their like horror moment where it felt because you're also watching TV, right? And you feel
Yeah,
like it could be.
exactly. That was my experience because I remember like being like watching blockbuster movies and sitting there like at night, and
Mhm.
like it's like that could happen to me. And I remember it would freak me out, and I'd be like, "Oh no," like because I started watching horror at a young age, so that would make me think of things like that.
Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, but I think especially Are You Afraid of the Dark really like rode that line that was I don't know how old you were at the time, but it was so perfectly like the tone of it was so perfect in that it was just a little too scary sometimes, which like triggers this sort of adrenaline thing that you kind of want to go back to. It's like it kept pushing when I watched it, my sort of boundaries of what I thought I could take,
Yeah,
which is exactly where you want to be because you don't want to traumatize people, but you do want to have these really cinematic moments that stick with you forever. And looking back on them, they're so, I don't want to say basic, but they're so simple and sort of sweet in a way. I always think really fondly of the whole show. The vibe was great, and so many people watched it and connected to it and fell in love with horror, from when they were 7 to 11 years old
yeah.
in a very safe, they're wholesome too, in a way, in a very sort of safe, contained medium.
Especially with like clowns. Like clowns have always had that scary vibe with it, and that, and now the rise of Terrifier and everything
Yeah.
else. You could always rely on a scary clown. So especially as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah. My first scary clown memory was, I think, Pee-wee's Big Adventure when he comes out of the music shop and his bike is stolen and
Yes, yes,
he had
yes.
chained it to this big like glossy plastic clown and he's kind of freaking out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what it, maybe it's the makeup. Something there is like taps into something very primal, I think, in
I
our
always
like,
thought it was because they're supposed to be so friendly that when they, you know what I mean? Because you let your guard down, like when you're three,
yeah,
you have a clown at your birthday party,
yeah.
so it's like, oh, and then when they turn, it's like you allow your guard down, and then,
But then halfway through, you realize, oh, I don't know who you are and what you really look like.
exactly, it's the mysterious, and
Yeah,
yeah. Um, do you have any siblings? And if so, were any of them bratty like your brother in the Crimson Clown? And was it easier to reflect off that, if so?
that's so funny. I do. I have three younger siblings, and we get along very well now, and we got along back then, but we were constantly pranking each other, and I was the eldest, and really had to, yeah, course correct them. Mom's birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. It's like, what are you guys thinking? We got up to some stuff. I've got scars here from, various uh, mud ball fights that happened to be filled with glass and rocks. Yeah, the younger guy, his name was Michael Berry. Uh, yeah, he was fun, and he had that brown like bowl cut that was just like my real brother.
That was
I
that
could,
90s haircut.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I could totally superimpose him on there. But he was fun to work with. He was a good actor.
What was your experience in school after the episodes? Were like you popular, everyone wanted to ask you about it, or were you more
I
nonchalant?
I was such an ass. I mean, well-meaning, but like so, oh God, if I could go back. Um, and people remind me of this that I went to school with, and they do it in a very sweet way, but I think back on it and I go, oh my God, like what a fucking tool I was. So I was in this small town outside Toronto, Brampton, where I went to school, and there weren't a lot of actors there. And this was all pre-YouTube and pre anybody can be on a screen, and so it felt like a very special thing to be on television. And I was not like a popular kid. I was pretty small and got bullied a lot. And I went to this new school, and all of a sudden I was the kid on these shows.
Yeah.
And I had an agent and I had headshots, and so people were like, "Can you bring headshots to school?" And they were putting them up in the lockers and stuff and having me sign them.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
it's just like so cringy, and I wish the teachers had not allowed that to happen. It just feels like such a ego
Yeah.
bloat for someone who does not need
Yeah.
that. Seventh grade, and then I ran for president of the school, and of course won based on nothing other than
Yeah.
just, there were
Popularity.
there were qualified people who were like going to work for the school and do things, and I was just like, hey y'all, it's me. Um, but I feel like I learned my lesson and pulled away from that. But for a little while, yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was like a middle school celebrity.
I always feel like watching when I watched the Renegade Virus back that it was so ahead of its time, especially with the rise of AI and how virtual reality is now. Like, how do you feel about your take then, like recording it then and virtual reality versus what it's become now?
It blows my mind that it still feels so relevant in a way. I actually need to rewatch that whole. I have a 10-year-old son now, and I feel like we should watch that one together. Um, Back when we did that, we were not really talking about the internet as like a tool. It was like some people were messaging on it, and there was some coding going on. My local mall had this like virtual reality setup where you could put on a helmet, and it was a very like basic 3D experience with like a pterodactyl made of like four lines, just
Yeah.
like really, really raw. And so when we shot this show, it felt like very like high-end sci-fi. Like this is the future, and this is what only like the craziest nerds do. But like it also comes with all these potential dangers, right? If it gets a mind of its own. And what happens then? And yeah, it's funny to think that that has somehow come to fruition now without that 32 point port in my hand. But
That actually that transitions to my next question on how that prosthetic worked with the
It was pretty good with the thing going like they had, oh my God, they had got this jack and then they took a mold of my hand and then cut out this silicone latex pad around it and then kind of glued it on. But I couldn't move my hand much because as soon as I did, it would wrinkle up. And I think in the show, you can even see I like flinch and the sides kind of fold up a bit, but we don't care about that.
Yeah.
But that was really fun too. And then one of my, I remember they were always doing really creative, Ron, the director, was doing creative workarounds for some of the effects. Like when I'm in the chair and the vines kind of all wrap around me, or the cables or whatever they're,
Yeah, the cables, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We, in my mind, it was always vines. But we wrapped me up and then we did it in reverse. And so they all come flying off. And then similarly in the school, when I wake up and I'm in my underwear in the school, which was at the time the most embarrassing thing I could imagine.
Especially as a kid. Everyone
I
had those
couldn't,
dreams like, what if I went to school in my underwear?
and I was doing it on TV and I knew everyone was going to see it. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is horrifying. And I had like a costume fitting. We're like, oh, let's try out these different boxers and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh God, this is torture. But then in that one, I was like, all right, I'm gonna walk backwards. Everyone else is gonna walk forwards, and then they're gonna reverse it, and it'll look cool. I remember practicing really hard how to walk backwards so that when you played it backwards, it looked sort of natural, but it's really sort of,
That's crazy. I always thought it was the opposite. I thought they were walking backwards and then they did that in reverse. I didn't know you were the one walking backwards. I always assumed
yeah,
it was
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, it's cool. But they were doing these sort of very creative in camera effects that it's fun to think of now. It's like, yeah, you could do a lot, and you still can. You don't have to rely on all of these outside, plugins and CGI and stuff if you want.
Do you remember how they made the big lock on the bike? That giant lock that like locks on the bike?
Yeah, the oversized big combo lock. Yeah, my
Exactly.
combo, right? Oh God. It was like balsa wood and styrofoam.
Okay.
Yeah,
It looked good, especially for
it
back
did.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it did.
Like
And I seem to remember half of it being the paint was still wet or something. They were rushing to get it done, but they had carved it out really, really well and sort of put these modular pieces together of like light wood and styrofoam, and then they had sort of silver spray painted it, probably with the same paint they used on the poor actor, the virus. Um,
yeah. Well,
yeah, yeah, they just modeled it. Yeah, it was really cool.
it's funny because that's again my next question. What was it like acting across the virus and with all the prosthetics and stuff? Was it easy to act across him? Was it like difficult? Was it scary? How was your experience?
He was from Montreal, super French guy. I can't remember his name right now, but he was so into it. He was really, really invested and kind of like a little crazy and wild like that. He was super in character, and it was fun to talk to him. He didn't speak a lot of English though. He was like really French forward. Um, but he got so into it. I mean, we weren't freaked out. We were kind of delighted by him. And he would do these takes, where he'd lean forward and menace and spit would be dripping from his thing and his brain is pulsing and they'd yell cut and we would just like burst out into applause. It was like so cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was really, really into it. It was fun. I don't know if you could make a show with that character now, but
yeah.
he seemed to be really into it at the time.
Well, he knew how to say Einstein, so.
Yeah, yeah, Einstein. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Um, in Say Cheese and Die again, was it hard to play a role that was already previously like somebody else? Was it hard to come into that role? Did you have to study that person before, or was it like a reading just like any other?
I think Ryan Gosling did the first version.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it technically you played Ryan
his
Gosling's older
brother.
brother. Yeah,
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 yeah. Um, it it wasn't because again going back to this like small pool of actors. everybody was kind of being reused on these shows all the time. And if someone wasn't available, you knew that so and so was going to be there to do it. So it wasn't weird. It was kind of fun to be in the same world as my friends had already played in. And um, yeah, and that again was like a Ron Oliver one. And I remember it being very last minute. I don't think I auditioned for that. I think he was like, maybe somebody dropped out or couldn't do it for some reason, but it was like a Friday afternoon and they were like, could we fly you to Montreal tomorrow morning and start working on Monday?
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the Goosebumps books growing up at all, or?
I was just a little.
To be continued. Follow, share, and like for part 2.